Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me, in my new series in the year 2020, the year 2020 Rick Miracle Report. This is number 29. Today is March 22nd. Tomorrow, of course, is the 23rd, Monday. Apparently a serious satanic occult holiday. And the craziness really started on Friday the 13th, a few days ago. This is the 22nd. And I said to myself, it should be an interesting week. Friday the 13th, stock market was crashing. Edicts were proclaimed, the lockdown of the country, the lockdown of the world. And the whole week was a crazy one last week. And tomorrow, Monday, maybe the climax, maybe today, because it is an occult holiday. So I went to one of the fast food stores to get some Mexican food. I don't want to name the franchise, because all the restaurants in my town, and apparently towns all over the United States, I contacted one of my sisters who lives right outside of Tampa, Florida. I have another sister right outside of Fort Lauderdale, Delray, Florida, and relatives in New York and other places. And the consensus is everybody's in lockdown. My sister in Delray said they're allowed to go to the stores, but they're not allowed to stay out very long. So, and the people in the franchise restaurant were young people, 20, 19, I don't know. And they said they were afraid. So I thought for this video on this Sunday, the 22nd, that I would talk about being afraid and why we should not be afraid. Obvious to me, anyways, that this lockdown, according to some of the economic experts, that a month ago or so, the ships leaving China with supplies to the United States was halted. So the ships that were crossing the ocean or had arrived at the ports in the United States, of course, were allowed to finish their trips and unload. But if the ships were halted a month ago, then at some point, supplies are going to run out. Crazy as it seems, I've been going to the store, as I advise anybody to have some supplies on hand, because it seems that the stores, many of the shelves are emptying. I had to halt my video for a minute. I was interrupted. So I'm talking about people being afraid. Young people, middle-aged people, old people, from Florida to New York to California, the 50 states in the United States, all the countries all over the world. What an arm must exist to be able to reach out to the whole world and shut it down. That's why I put up this mural behind me for this video, to try to tell you who the arm is and why you shouldn't be afraid, why you shouldn't react, why you should work very hard at putting love in your heart, no matter what happens. I talk about good and evil to people, and they get angry at me and say there's no such thing as good and evil. So I've come up with several ways to get people to think about it. How about the words love and hate? Of course, love would be good and hate would be evil. How about order and chaos? Order would be good, chaos would be evil. It appears that the evil forces are in control of planet Earth. They've been here all along, and as Jesus Christ said in the Bible, when Satan offered him all of earth, if he would get down on his knees, and he said, I am not of this planet, this place. In my Father's kingdom there are many mansions in heaven. So I, and I believe every other human being, you, are spiritual beings having this human experience. We're not going to get off of planet Earth alive. We're going to die sooner or later and go back to the spirit world. But apparently there are several dimensions, or several heavens, if you will. One of them called Hades, hell. And apparently the deciding factor is the choices we make with our minds and our hearts, what we believe. Fear is evil. Faith is good. Good and evil. The powers that be want you and I and everybody else to react with fear. Evil wants to beget evil. They want to destroy good because good begets good. When you have good people in a good town and good families, well, generally you have good children and good societies. But when you get all this evil and evil movies and evil TV programming and new age material, evil begets evil. So fear is evil. So with the news that we watch on TV, the news report, the newspapers, the radio, and everything else, magazines, the announcements from all the political leaders, it looks like this thing is not going to end. So again, I wanted to make a video and talk about it with the coronavirus and many other associated instances, events, happenings that have happened not too long ago, that are happening now and are probably going to happen in the near future. If you watch the news, the government is exercising its strength and ability to control the population. Apparently, California and Hawaii and other places, they're clamping down on people going to the beach or going in New Orleans out on the streets. And it's going to increase, and the supplies at the grocery stores will decrease. So the resistance will increase as the supplies decrease. The agitation, the hate, the violence will increase, which is, I believe, is what the powers that be want. I remember one guy, President Obama's right-hand man, I think his name is Ron Emanuel, and he said, never let a good crisis go to waste. So think about it. So the planners for a global world order, it's in the news, it's common. There's all kinds of propaganda about sustainability, equality, and rainbow coalition, pansexualism, demonizing Christians and calling them haters. So they're pushing this effort to control the world, telling us everything needs to change. And then, of course, you get this virus happening in China. We're sounding some alarms. People were getting sick. And somebody probably embraced the idea, never let a crisis go to waste. Wait a minute, we can seize this thing. We can take over the world. I mean, if you watch a movie about a plague or a virus or whatever, usually they put roadblocks on the town and nobody can come or go. This is for the last 100 years or more. That's what they did. 500 years, 1,000 years. It didn't spread to places all over the world in every nook and cranny and shut down every restaurant and gymnasium and all these other businesses and tell everybody not to gather in groups of 10 or more from South America, North America, Asia, Europe, the whole world, at a time when the artificial intelligence and the electromagnetic radiations and weaponry from satellites and etc., laser technologies, drones, and the supply chain of supplies in their control, including TP, it's insane. But what like I said, in this video, I wanted to talk about fear. In the Bible, it says these things are going to happen. And to not have fear. To stand like on a mountaintop and look at the whole world as it goes into chaos and anarchy, evil. And watch it, I wouldn't say with amusement, but with, you can have concern and pity and love for all those people who are losing their minds. If they all didn't lose their minds and everybody was calm and collective, then the evil forces would not be able to accomplish their global world order. And I am convinced from my research, if you've been watching my videos, that the powers that be, these evil satanic forces you see behind me, have been busy for at least 300 years with this idea of a global world order. It started in the 1700s with an ex-Jesuit who was disliked by the other Jesuits, and he went ahead and started another organization called the Illuminati, and in cahoots with secret societies and the banksters, the Rothschilds, etc., with the money. And they planned numerous revolutions, and even in 1865, during or right after the war between the North and the South in the United States, the Civil War, I think it was from 63 to 65, 66, the Civil War. But Albert Pike, the general for the South, the leader of the Freemasonic societies throughout North America, wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy, the leader of the Freemasons over there, that there would be 3 world wars required to bring about a global world order. So this stuff has been planned and prophesized and told to us, and we've all know some history about World War I and World War II. A lot of people today remember 9/11 and the atrocities and the destruction all over the Middle East. And if you go back further in time with all the research that I've done, the revolution in Britain, the revolution in Russia, the revolution in France, were all controlled by these people. There's a serpent right behind my finger here. The all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, the sun's rays. I've learned a lot here. The moon and the sun over here. The moon and the sun over here. Apparently, with the moon, this column here is called Satan. With the sun, this one over here, this column is called Lucifer. That's a reptilian eye. You can see it. There's a serpent. Reptilian eye, the sun, the column, Lucifer, the moon, the column Satan. So they're telling us all of this. And we're spiritual beings. We don't have to fear what is going to happen. We do not have to react to what is going to happen. We can look at it as watching a movie, realizing even if while we're standing on a hilltop or on top of a building or out in the field, don't get involved with the riots and craziness in the cities if that happens, and the looting and the killing if it happens. It's hard to imagine that it won't happen. But the powers that be have the technologies with artificial intelligence, cameras everywhere, tracking everybody's movement, listening to us even on our cell phones. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I said, I wonder if Siri on my cell phone can hear what we're saying. And I don't believe I had Siri turned on. But the phone spoke and said, I can't help you right now. The technology's down. And both of us looked at each other and were just shocked. The phone talked to us. So apparently this smart technology is in the TVs, the radios, smart refrigerators, smart cars, technologies, and the smart meters attached to our houses, and tracking us, and when we're on the phone, and what we watch, what we look up, what we purchase, where we get money. The beast is watching everything we're doing, trying to, it's like going fishing. You cast your line and you try to reel in the fish. The satanic Lucifer, Satan, and Lucifer, and all of the Freemasons and Rosicrucians, Illuminati, Zionist, satanic groups, occult groups, are trying to reel everybody in a very tactful way, using these things like viruses and threats of sustainability and global warming and terrorism and hate crimes and so much more. They're trying to rope everybody in. They're after our souls. And we know we can't get off of planet Earth alive. We're going to die eventually. So the real eternity is in God's heaven, not in these people's organizations. I was watching InfoWars. I go check on different websites to see who's saying what. But apparently it says here, first look at the internal passports to travel within the United States. So North Carolina, where I live, declares a state of emergency, imposing curfew that could last over a year. March 21st, yesterday. So people are watching Alex Jones, and apparently North Carolina declares a state of emergency, imposing a curfew that could last over a year, according to an economic pundit on a YouTube video I was watching today. He was explaining quite methodically how when the virus broke out in China a month or so ago, all the outgoing ships were halted, all the factories were shut down, and so we had a few weeks of supplies. And now they're saying this thing's going to go on for a year, and large companies and production areas are shut down. And NPR, the radio program, National Public Radio, had a tribute to all the truck drivers for delivering the goods, all those old truck driving songs. It was quite amusing. But to me, I wanted to talk again. I have to keep reminding myself what this video is about. It's about fear. We should not have fear. We should have faith. We should have belief. We should believe we're spiritual beings and we choose God. In my situation, I believe Jesus Christ was seriously real, sent from the heaven world, if you want to understand it in plain English, to send a message to mankind, and he added a commandment. You can look it up in the Bible. And the commandment was we are supposed to love one another, not hate one another. So if the whole world is going to go up in flames and chaos and anarchy, what good is it going to do by succumbing to the hate and succumbing to the fear and succumbing to the suffering? When logically you can look at the whole thing as an outsider and with amusement maybe, or just curiosity and intellect, and say all this was prophesied. Albert Pike in 1865 in the Bible. It's 300 years ago with Adam Mustafa, the ex-Jesuit, getting with the Rothschilds, forming the Illuminati, coming up with a plan to take over all the Freemasonic lodges and all the symbolism. So, with that said, here's some more facts, and people need to know this. But even President Trump and since Jimmy Carter, they've all been affirming that the Jewish Noahide laws are the laws of the land. So 40 years ago or whatever, since 1978, this rabbi died. So they passed some legislation in Congress declaring in his honor something called Education Day. And that was 1978. And attached to that bill was a proclamation stating the eternal validity of the 7 Noahide laws. The Jewish Noahide laws are the laws of the land of America and countries all over the world, I suspect. They are anti-Christian laws. They deny Jesus was sent from heaven, the Jesus Christ, the Savior. And anybody who believes in a false deity that they deny will be punished by decapitation, off with the heads. So whether it's starvation, rioters and looters breaking into people's houses and killing them, or drones or assassins sent to people who won't capitulate, who resist joining the satanic and Luciferic deities with these Zionist people to be killed. They have a plan for this. It's all in writing. It's all in these documents I've been going over. So no matter how you leave, whether they shoot you, behead you, give you biological weapons, starve you, whatever, you're going to go back to the spirit world. And what's really important is the decision you made mentally in your head to reject hate, to reject fear, to reject vengeance, to reject retaliation, getting a gun, shooting people. It'd be better to just stand by idly there, looking up at the sky, seeing the nuclear missile coming or whatever, or the jets spraying biological weapons, or the government getting everybody who won't swear to the Luciferic deity and get decapitated. It would be better to just concern yourself with none of those things and anticipate and be anxious to get to heaven away from this insanity. Because apparently this insanity is going to consume the whole planet. And at the time that the whole planet is consumed, the whole planet is destined for destruction. The people who chose God and rejected this stuff will be in the new heaven that God creates to replace this place called Earth. It's in all these documents. So they have these Noahide laws on the books. Isn't there supposed to be something called separation of church and state? I know this is a lot for a 30-minute video, but stick with me for a few more minutes. So I said to myself, after doing some research and watching videos and realizing tomorrow, Monday, is a serious satanic holiday, and that this whole insanity in the United States started on Friday the 13th, that the next 7, 8, 9, 10 days were going to be quite interesting with some kind of climatic event. So I went and looked up occult and Illuminati holiday traditions. You can go look this up. I just looked up the keywords on Yahoo search, occult holidays. That's the only 2 words I used, and I came up with this document and many more search results. So what I'm telling you is real. The Illuminati Watcher, a rational guide to the irrational. The occult and Illuminati holiday traditions. Again, I'm going to try to make this short. To tell you that what I've just said, all this stuff about fear, is unnecessary. The evil forces are in control. The situation is doomed. You can't get a gun or defend yourself or resist these people or try to attack them. They're too powerful. They want you to come at them so they can have an excuse to take you down. And they've killed so many people. Even President John Kennedy, in his famous speech just before he was assassinated, he said secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life, and I intend to expose them. And they blew the back of his head off, and so many more people. So when you know that all of this is unavoidable, it's like, you know, you're in a jet plane and you look out the window and big explosion and the wing falls off and the plane is perilously diving towards the ground. You know you're dead. I always thought about that. You know, why would you want to go down to the ground for the next 2 minutes, however long it takes, screaming your brains out and everybody panicking and running around? It doesn't make sense. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. You could calmly sit there and thank God for this life and the opportunity you've had, knowing you're going to pass into the next world in a couple of seconds. And there's been people who have died and come back from the dead and said, there is no death. When you leave this body, you're in this other reality, and you're like alive. You didn't die. So there shouldn't be any fear. There can't be any hate. There can't be any killing. There can't be any desire for vengeance. You can't try to rob people and take their water or their food and all of those things. For that split second when you do die, you're going to have to account for that. And you'd rather, I'm sure anybody watching this video would rather go to the beautiful heaven that people have described in many books. They said it's beyond belief. And these people who were contacted through channeling and psychics and mediums, they said if they could come to earth, they would leave that heaven and come here to tell people because it was so beautiful. They wanted all of their family and friends and everybody to know. They wanted to share it. So anyways, I just wanted to talk to you about this occult holiday thing and just kind of put some cement on what I'm trying to say, who is behind all of this and what they intend to do. And there's probably nothing we can do about it but make a mental decision and share it with people and calmly go through the situation and not react like they want us to. So anyways, March 21st and 22nd, today's the 22nd, is a holiday known as Easter. Is typically a time spent by Christians to reflect on the resurrection of Jesus Christ. However, there is an occult meaning attached to it that needs explored. It revolves around the goddess Ostara, aka the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, aka Estora, aka the moon goddess. I just said the moon goddess, or the moon, Satan, aka Samaris, aka Egyptian goddess Isis, aka Greek Aphrodite, aka Roman Venus, Ostara Estera, is the Old English spelling and origin of the name Easter. In pagan history, listen up, human sacrifices occur on the first Sunday after the first new moon, after Ostara Estor. The human sacrifices. So do you suppose a lot of people dying from the virus, if it was intentional, would be part of any kind of 911 sacrificial event? Oklahoma City building bombing, Waco, and so much more. It celebrates the return of Samaris in her reincarnation as the spring goddess, Astara. This is part of the revolving phases of the triple goddess of the female deity mentioned earlier. So the Easter egg is a Babylonian legend that claims the goddess Ishtar, Samaris, fell from heaven in an egg. The Easter egg hunt is based on the traditional of looking for Ishtar and finding her. This would allow her to be reborn, bestow blessings on persons. Samaris Ishtar is the goddess of fertility because this is the rebirth, the egg, and the legend. Crazy stuff to read here. So this author of this article, he says, let it be known that I'm a Christian. So this particular topic piqued my interest. I recoil all of these odd occult connections with the fact that it symbolically means something different today and to my faith than it did when these traditions were instilled. The Christian concept of Lent is a commemoration of the 40 days Jesus spent fasting in the desert and eluded the temptations of the devil. However, the material that I've been researching claims that the 40 days is truly a tradition of this Tammuz mourning. In fact, Doc Martix cites Ezekiel 8-14 through 18, which shows God's anger of the Tammuz Lent practice. So just think, they got this craziness going on for the last 10 days. The 13th and tomorrow is the 23rd, 10 days. So there's this thing here in the Bible, Ezekiel 8-14 through 18. And this is God being angry with Tammuz Lent practice. And he brought me to the door of the gate of Lord's house, which was towards the north. So he brought this guy to the gate of the Lord's house, God's house. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of mine? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see a greater abomination than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces towards the east. So the Lord is showing this person something. He says, come into my house and look over here. And 25 people had their backs towards the Lord, facing the east. They worshipped the sun towards the east. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of mine? It is a light thing to which the house of Judah, that would be Israel today, that they commit the abomination which they commit here. So it is the Zionist people who call themselves Jews but are not, the Illuminati who took over the Freemasonic lodges, who have all their Freemasonic lodges where they face towards the east, worshiping the sun. A lot of the corporate logos have a picture of the sun. Sun Bank, Sun Trust, and so many other corporations. You've all seen it. That would be Lucifer. The moon, Satan. The columns, the symbols, the eye, the reptilian, the serpent. In the Bible, all these stories. So it's an abomination to worship the sun. For they have filled the land with violence. Think about this. During World War I, Germany was targeted. Not just Germany, it was called Prussia. It was like a United States. It was Germany, Austria, Hungary, Romania, all those countries to the east of Britain, because Britain was the empire where the sun never set. And Britain had been taken over by these Illuminati, Zionist, globalists in the 1600s. After they were banished and exiled in the 1500s, they made their way back into England and had the king's head chopped off, took over Britain, and had the India Tea Company and controlled the world, except over there in Germany and Austria and Romania and Hungary and all those other Baltic states, Yugoslavia and all of that. The Prussian Empire was growing. So they had to demonize the Prussians, the Germans, the Austrians, all the people, Poland, all that area, and get the United States into the war by putting their man, Woodrow Wilson, in charge and deceiving we people. To destroy Germany, the Prussian Empire, not Germany specifically, and after the war, they had reparations, war crimes, and a national debt and put on the nation, too much money they couldn't pay. They were destroying the whole Prussian area. World War I. So it was the elite who controlled Britain, who had been exiled, who blackmailed their way back into the country, had the king beheaded, and then they had to destroy this up-and-coming area called Prussia, Germany, i.e. Austria, and all that. That's World War I. World War II. They needed to take down the Ottoman Empire, Greece and Turkey and all of that, the people who controlled all of the Middle East. So they had to take down Prussia. They had to put one of their Illuminati leaders, Freemasonic leaders, in charge of the United States and take over our money supply. December 21st, 1913, 6 months before World War I. So they had the United States. They had destroyed Prussia. And then, of course, later on, it had to be the Middle East. And they had a revolution in China, Mao, and killed untold millions. And a revolution over here in Russia, and killed 100 million Christians and good people. And don't even want to talk about Africa and South America, and putting these Illuminati-type characters in charge and their puppet presidents and slaughtering untold numbers of people in these native countries like Africa and South America. So they have these religious holidays. They have the symbols. Here on the dollar bill, perched on the top of that one, if you could see it, right where my finger is, if you look on your dollar bill on top of that one, is a little owl Moloch. Not to be quick about this, I'm trying to keep the video short. So they have this Moloch, like it says in the Bible. And they sacrifice the sons and daughters to this being that's on the dollar bill. The Washington, D.C., I have the picture here, street plan looks like a giant owl. has a six-pointed star on this Moloch character mentioned in the Bible. Washington, D.C. street plan. A giant owl. The intention. The owl is represented as an owl or a bull. Now remember, when Moses guided the Hebrews out of captivity in Egypt, they made it almost to the land of Canaan, later called Palestine, now called Israel. And while Moses went up to the top of the mountain to talk to God, the Hebrews got some gold together, built a golden calf, and were worshiping Moloch. And you can see the tablets were being thrown down to the ground by Moses. He smashed them. He was so angry. And of course, in Wall Street in New York, you have the bull. So they sacrifice humans. They're dumping chemicals in the sky. They're using this coronavirus situation to shut down the world. They know the supplies are going to run out. The people will probably lose their minds and be stressed out. And like after 9/11, when they attacked Iraq, when a mother or father would come out of the rubble, the blown up city, pleading for some milk and food for the babies, they would call them insurgents and shoot them. So what do you think they're going to do to people in the United States? And this is not about fear. We can watch this like watching a movie. Sacrificing. Six-pointed star on his chest. The all-seeing eye. Our leaders photographed in California at the Bohemian Grove. Giant owl, satanic rituals. Sacrifice. Sacrifice. Worship Moloch. It's on the dollar bill. The Washington, D.C. street design. All the symbols they've been showing us. The sun. Moloch. The eye. Look behind me. The sun. The eye. The moon. Moloch. The eye. The sun. Our leaders, Reagan, Kissinger, many of them photographed in this ritual in California, throwing a baby in the fire, calling it cremation of care. It was in the Bohemian Grove in California where they got together and decided on the development idea of the nuclear bomb. So all this is common knowledge. The Freemasonic magazines. I've made videos on this series 26. I'm reposting them on Vimeo. So there's your Egyptian signals. There's your triangle. There's Satan and Lucifer, the columns, the double-headed eagle, and the name of the Freemasonic magazine. You can see the Scottish Rite Creed, the Supreme Council. It's called the New Age. There's no mystery here. So they passed these laws back in 1978, making the Noahide laws, these Jewish occult laws, the laws of the land, when there's supposed to be separation of church and state. In my state, they've shut down travel between interstate. They even have this document, I guess like some kind of passport. Health, safety. They know the supplies are going to run out. They tell us this is going to be over a year, says it in this documentation. They're spraying chemicals in the sky. from chemtrails to space fence lockdown. And I've been getting all these books, and I continue to read them. The Secret Traditions of Freemasonry, Finding Our Fathers, these books to the Jewish genealogy and what they've done all over the world. I continue to research this. And so much more. I get these other magazines. Fate, Dowsing in the USSR, Life in a Pyramid, UFO Assault, We Are All Healers. So my point is, everything I talked about is we need to avoid fear. We need to avoid evil. We need to watch this as a concerned citizen, someone like watching a movie. You need to be astute about it. You need to get some supplies, get some cans of canned food and canned meat and gallons of water, and ride this out. There's nothing you can do. You can't go buy a gun. You can't go shoot these people. You shouldn't go kill other people or try to steal stuff or riot in the streets, because you're only sentencing yourself to doom and to Hades. We need to, even all these people that go crazy, all these people perpetrating the evil, dumping the chemicals in the sky, doing all the propaganda and sustainability, all this evil against us, you can even love them and pray for them. We can all be above all of this. We do not have to succumb to fear. If you're in a jet airline and the wing falls off and you're plummeting to your death, you don't need to spend 2 minutes screaming and going crazy. You can be calm and talk to God and ride it out. And maybe a miracle will happen. Maybe you'll be subtracted from the reality and wind up in heaven. So that's what I wanted to talk about, fear. The young people at the Mexican franchise said 19 years old, 20 years old. They said they were afraid. But they didn't grow up like I did and a lot of other people 30, 40 years ago, where we actually went to church and we know there's a God and we know that we're spiritual beings and there's nothing to fear but fear itself. There can be no attack on these people. There can be no vengeance. There can be no killing and stealing from other people. And of course, the government will probably provide people with $1,000 checks and say, come on over here and take a vaccine and go to a FEMA camp. I would rather stay at home and just watch the thing unfold, because apparently there's nothing we can do about it. They have all the guns, they have all the technologies. We have our lives and our souls, and they're jealous of that. They want our souls. Anyways, on this Sunday, this occult holiday week, 10 days, with maybe more death to come, I just thought I wanted to talk about it and just try to let people know that I've been studying this for 15 years. And I realize that there have been many people who research this stuff, who have been targeted, have been killed, have been imprisoned, have been tortured. And there's nothing we can do to stop them. But need not to worry, because we're spiritual beings. And when we leave this planet and we keep the faith, we're going to wind up in God's world, not Satan's world and not Lucifer's world, or whatever kind of prison planet this is going to turn into. You don't want to be there. So anyways, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this conversation. I just want people to know that it's all real. The evil forces are in charge. The Moloch is on the dollar bill. It's on the Washington, D.C. street plan. It's at the Bohemian Grove. They show the owl and the bull on TV. They use this symbol everywhere. The sun, the serpent. They're the ones behind all of this. And if the shelves are empty and there's no food, and they tell people on the news, no people gathering in groups of more than 10, and they do this military police attack on people, trying to break everybody up and not talk to each other, They don't want people to know the truth. And the truth is, I'll say it again, we're spiritual beings. We do not have to worry. If we choose God, we're safe and we're out of here. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.